This is the Fight for Your Health, the show that teaches you how to master the fine art of living your life on purpose and have a longer, healthier, and happier life through the martial arts lifestyle. The show is hosted by Professor Buitron and his co-host, Grand Master Richard Hackworth. These two experts have combined their efforts and are on a mission to make the world a safer, healthier, and happier place through the martial arts lifestyle. Now, to tell it like it is, here are your...
Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Fight for Your Health TV show with Professor Buitron and as your host, and I'm your co-host, Richard Hackworth. And today we're kind of getting launched into the new year and going to explain a little bit about the new direction for the show and some of our goals for the show, along with some advice for those of you that want to be teachers and why you should be professional. So, Professor Buitron, if you would kick us off with your thoughts.
Sure. See you again, and I hope everybody's doing well. And we started the year of the dragon. No, actually, the year of the tiger. On a different note, as January came in, and we got hit once more with a pandemic, and a lot of students were sick. A lot of folks were sick. So a lot of the schools, everybody that you talk to, and a lot of our associates, that were wondering whether we're going to go back into lockdowns or we're going to have, the fears out there, and are people going to come back? And it's all kind of stressful, and we in the martial arts always talk about having physical conditioning, mental conditioning, and as well as spiritual conditioning. And when you're worrying all the time if you're going to make rent or the students coming back, or what direction we should go, or what have you, it's kind of a lot of the martial art instructors are giving up, and they should give up, and they want to fall back to, well, guess what? I'm just going to go teach in my school. I won't have to. It's not going to be a business. It's not going to be professional, but I'm going to be teaching out of my school, old school ways. And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, as far as like instructors teaching out of their garage or at public parks and things like that, there are a lot of liabilities. And just because you're not paying rent at a commercial location doesn't mean that those students aren't going to hold you responsible if they get injured. And if you have an injury that requires a trip to the hospital from a city park, the city is not going to be lenient on you. And if it happens in your garage at your home, then definitely your homeowner's insurance and probably even the homeowners association is going to take legal action against you. So I know sometimes people think they're saving money, and that, but the problem is your liability is the same. So you can't shirk your responsibilities by saying, well, we're just doing this out of my garage and I don't charge much. And it doesn't matter, even if you don't charge anything. If you're the teacher and a student gets hurt, you're going to be held responsible. And that's the end of the story. There's no way around it. And I discourage people from doing that on a regular basis, because I've had a lot of instructors throughout the lockdown say, hey, we're meeting at this city park. And I'm like, do you have permission to do that? Because if you don't, and if your insurance doesn't cover you at that location, then you're really going to suffer in the long run for it.
Absolutely. And the instant you take one student, regardless of where it's at, and you get another student, two students, three students, you have already become a professional martial artist, period. Your ethics has to go up. Your morality has to go up. Your moral compass has to be straightforward. You have to, you can have, we all have that dream, and everybody that grows up in the martial arts always sees that old man teaching his nephew or the kid that got bullied in the backyard. You see it over with Jackie Chan and The Last Karate Kid. You see it with Miyagi. Come over in the backyard and we'll teach you how to defend yourself. I'm going to teach you the secrets. So people kind of have that theory that it's okay to do so. It is okay, but along with that, like you said, there's a lot of liabilities around it. We have to be careful in many ways because in today's society, the next question that I'm going to bring up is, do we have students or do we have clients? And we have to really think about that because a lot of people say, I have 300 students. Do you really have 300 students or you have 300 clients? And that's what we have to understand.
Right. You make a very valid point there, and I'm glad you brought that up because to me, the understanding the difference there makes a huge um, impact on the way the students look at you as well. Because if they're your clients, then you have to understand that you owe them something in return for their money, and that you have to make every effort to try to meet their goals. And a lot of instructors don't see that. I see the biggest mistake I see many instructors make is that they teach martial arts for the reason that they wanted to do it. But I challenge you to find a single student in your school that joined for the exact same reason that you did. If you've got 50 people there in your class, they have 50 different reasons for being there.
Absolutely.
And you're basically using martial arts as a mentoring catalyst or system to train people to improve their mind, body, and spirit, to improve their life through the martial arts lifestyle. And depending on what their individual goals are, you have to emphasize that aspect of the training for them. And that's why I, tell a lot of instructors that, while they're doing the drills, you need to explain the benefits, because otherwise they think they're just moving around. They don't understand, the cardiovascular benefits of pad drills or bag work or jumping rope or whatever you're having them do. And so they're not going to realize the actualization of getting those benefits if you don't point it out to them. And it goes a long way in helping them stay motivated and inspired to train longer.
Absolutely. And you have to realize that you're exactly right. And I'm gonna quote one of my professors. His name was Jim Paul Viviani. He used to say, "You cannot babysit your students." And I would always think about that and say, "What do you mean babysitting my students?" You're gonna have masses that they're gonna come in. They're gonna start learning from you, and then you're gonna have those that are gonna follow you wherever you go. Those are gonna become your students, but you cannot babysit them. And it took me a long time to realize what he was trying to say. And and the end goal was you have to teach them the way it is. If once it crossed that line and become students, you have to actually start teaching them the whole pedagogy of the system. And regardless whether they're tall, skinny, short, fat, what have you, muscular or not, men, women, you have to teach them the whole entity. You can't just pick and choose and because you want to babysit them because they have a great fuerte or roundhouse and say, you know what, we're just going to continue doing this. You actually have to teach them the whole spectrum and let them pick you up because they're the ones that are going to continue eventually teaching down the road.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's a very good point about people like to work on their favorite things, but it's working on their weaknesses that help them improve.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I see this a lot, and this is a question that came up because of the COVID years that we've been in. And we're going now on what 2.5, going on 3 years. Actually, this March will probably be 3 years. So we're going to be starting a third year. A lot of folks could not see past, and when a lot of martial arts schools closed. A lot of our colleagues closed down. They couldn't get back up. They haven't opened back. But those that did and are continuing adapted to many different types of scenarios, and that adaptation is what's basically bringing forth people to become back sane again, not to go off into a mental state. But what would you say are a couple of the things that made us adapt?
Well, I think that the passion that a lot of instructors have made them want to look for other ways to continue teaching people, not just to continue their income, but to continue because they felt a personal obligation to the students. And I know, unfortunately, a lot of students didn't reciprocate that with a sense of obligation to the instructor because they used COVID as an excuse to stop training.
Yes.
And it's funny because they didn't stop going to restaurants, they didn't stop going to movie theaters, and here in Florida, they were still going to Disney and Universal Studios and doing all these things, just wearing a mask. But for some reason, that didn't carry over into the martial arts. And I would say that the biggest reason for that is that most students don't look at the martial arts as their lifestyle. They only look at the martial arts as something they do to get a little exercise a couple times a week. So they were willing to give up something that they do as opposed to something that's their lifestyle. You know, like people were still going to football games because they felt football was a part of their life. They didn't feel it was just some activity. And so I think as teachers, we need to continue to emphasize the benefits so that the students learn that, hey, this is a lifestyle and this is a part of me. And it's something that I want to do no matter what's going on with COVID, you know, whether we have to limit contact in class or we have to make use of hand sanitizer. And that was one of the things that we did was that, you know, if you, before you worked with your partner, everybody was doing hand sanitizer. They were wearing masks. We were social distancing, you know, as per the requirements. We added UVC lighting to our school, and the UVC lights kill viruses. So our facility was virus free because of the UVC lighting. And I think that that gave some of the students confidence. But even with that, there were students that didn't feel safe because they were so caught up in all the fear porn that the news was putting out. And they kept saying, this many people got it, this many people got it. And but the survival rate is the same as the flu. And I'm not making light of this. You know, I know it is a pandemic, but it's not like the Black Plague where everybody that got it died. You know.
You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And it was that fear mongering that destroyed a lot of the hopes of a lot of students in a lot of schools. But you know, we go back into fear mongering. A lot of people join the martial arts because of fear, because they're being bullied, because they're afraid to walk at home from night from the bus stop. They're afraid to go leave the house early in the morning to go to work at dusk and come back at night, and so it's a little bit scary for a lot of people, and that's why they learn the martial arts, because they want to learn how to defend themselves. They kind of want to build that, and it was kind of ironic because people were small businesses, and we consider most martial artists small businesses. They were being bullied back into submission, and we're like, what? You know, we're not used to that, and you know, a lot of schools just folded up and left, and they won't come back. Yeah. It's going to be a while before they really want to try to go back again, you know. And it was kind of like the society or the communities that embrace a lot of these schools, and you're an icon in your area, is for the longest time you've been teaching kids, little boys, girls, how to be themselves, how to have self-esteem, how to have self-confidence, how to have self-discipline. And they've gone up and they've grown into great citizens of society in your different areas. And that was forgotten by the martial arts. Everything else was kind of like, well, too bad, you know. And when you start seeing these schools drop, you're going to start seeing a lot of those tendencies of kind of like they're not positive start emerging back in a lot of the youth and the young adults. Watch what's going to happen.
Well, one of the things that I've seen because of all this that you know, parents and just consumers in general need to be aware of. In my area, within a 5-mile radius of me, there was a total of 21 schools. Mm-hmm. 9 of them went out of business during the lockdowns. 9. Now that we're not on lockdown here in Florida and things have freed up quite a bit here, 4 new schools have opened. Now, those 4 schools aren't any of the 9 instructors who had decades of experience. they're students of those guys who've only been training a couple of years, but now they're taking on the role of being a coach, a teacher, a mentor that really requires decades of experience.
Sure.
And I would caution anyone that if you're going to learn something, I mean, there's a reason that they don't allow people who've only gone to the sixth grade to teach fourth graders. You know what I mean? You have to have a much deeper source of knowledge to teach to that level than to just have completed that level. I don't know if I'm making sense there, but
Well, you made excellent sense. It's a great analogy.
and that's why, you know, with us, even the process of becoming an instructor in our organization last years, you know, we're actually we're probably on the upper end for requirements. To become a certified instructor, you're required to have a college degree. You have to be at least 24 years old to get your instructor's certificate. And you have to graduate from the instructor's course. And before you can even go to the instructor's course, you have to get a letter from your instructor stating that you've completed a 2-year internship, and that's an unpaid internship, where he mentored you and taught you about class formats and teaching methods and how to make things safe and proper explanation of techniques. So there's a lot more that goes into becoming an instructor than just having earned a black belt.
Absolutely. You
And
see, I'm glad that I hear that from that. You know, in Savat's a little bit different. In Savat, you have technical grades, and the highest technical grade is a silver glove. But that doesn't mean you can teach. You have to actually do an apprenticeship. In '92, I placed coach involved in there because you had a lot of clubs outside of France that were starting up. There was a lot of movement. So we had to give some kind of title for the person that was kind of going to lead that movement in certain areas. You know, that could have been United States, Canada, Mexico, what have you. So we gave the title coach, but coach could also lead somebody to become a second into the ring. Like if you had a competitor, you can lead them to the ring. So, and you start off with coach, iniciador. It takes 2 years from that. You have to be you have to be 18 years old to get a coach. Okay. And apart from your tests and so on and so forth. But until you're able to give the whole ranking, the whole spectrum of the ranks and become a professor, that's a 15-year-old course of apprenticeships that you have to do. You just don't get it right off the bat, you know? And that's a part of what you've already learned. So you're
yes,
talking about easy 20 years,
yes,
you know, and a lot of people do not understand that. And you have to do, like I said, prof d'etat, which I am, you had to have either a physical education degree underneath you, or a kinesiology degree underneath you,
yes,
or a type of athletic development underneath you before you could even apply to have the professor of Salat.
yes,
And those were just, you know, but here in the States, everybody, oh, yeah, I got a silver glove, they want to go teach. That doesn't mean you can teach. It's the same thing around the world, you know, but unlike boxing, which is a beautiful sport, that you can become a coach because you just sign up for USA Boxing as an amateur. You can do that. Anybody can. You just go take the 2-hour course or 4-hour course, depending on where you're at and on the spectrum, and you pass the test that they give you, and you get a coach. Now you can go teach boxing, but they're not teaching you. How can I say it? The science of boxing. They're not teaching you. They're teaching you the rules and regulations of what it is to be in the sport of boxing. Understand what I'm
exactly.
saying?
Oh,
They're not
yes,
teaching you how to throw a jab, how to move, how to condition somebody. That's up to you. You have to learn it somehow.
right.
And you know, so by the time you get coaches in boxing, you know that individual is probably boxing since he was a kid. He's probably in his 30s now. You know what I'm saying? So he's had 15 years easy underneath him. So and you apprentice underneath. So it's a different spectrum. But in the martial arts in general, everybody wants to get that black belt and then they want to go open up a school. That's not what it's about.
Yeah, and unfortunately, too many people believe that putting a black belt on means that they're qualified to teach. And I blame that on the industry because they promote that. You'll see that on ads. Our instructor is a certified black belt. And what else? That's not a teaching credential. And I tell that to people a lot. Your black belt is not a teaching credential. If you haven't been through an internship and you didn't serve an apprenticeship time and do the proper learning, then you have a long way to go from just being a black belt to being able to safely and efficiently teach people.
Absolutely. And that type of teaching, that type of conditioning, that type of learning through osmosis because of experiences that you're in the gym daily. Okay, not once a week, not maybe once a month. You're there daily helping out. That's part of you. That's the only way you're going to get the experience for you to go out there and do something. It's not going to, or teach in that sense, but a lot of how can I say that conditioning takes time and people don't want to put in that time. And I'm glad that you said that a lot of the schools that are opening up now are folks that were students that did not have the time that are now opening up the schools because it's going to be a while before that. I'm not saying they can't make any good students out of there. That's not what we're saying. What I'm saying is by the time that individual, if he did not have the proper apprenticeship underneath to go out there and open something, it's going to take him years of trial and error for him to figure it out if he stays long enough. But by that time, there's a lot of stuff that can happen. You talk about we talked about liability. There's a liability right there. And the liability is people come to martial arts schools because like I said, they're being bullied. They need to learn how to develop themselves in self-esteem and self-motivation to many, self-discipline, all these selves, self-defense. Are you teaching proper self-defense for the proper age, gender that can occur in the street? Or are you just mimicking something that was taught that has never been proven? And that is something that we all have to take and we all have to ponder on. Are we actually teaching our students to be able to defend themselves?
Actually, I'm very happy that you brought that up because I haven't seen anyone publicly talk about that specifically. And you are so right that is so important to the process. And the fact that this is the first time I've seen anyone publicly speak about it is important. And it just reminds me that, there's so much difference between experience and education because there are people who've learned about stuff that wouldn't understand that because they don't have the experience behind them. So you have to have both. And that's why I'm against people who only have 2 years of training, opening up their own school. And that's the exact reason. What you just said is the exact reason that should never be allowed. But unfortunately, anybody can go downtown and buy a business license and do what they want. As long as they make their rent on time, they're going to be an instructor. And without the experience, that people like you have.
And you're absolutely correct. And I'm not knocking anybody down because everybody had dreams and we're growing through the martial arts and we're training in there. The last thing I wanted to do was teach. That was the last thing I wanted to do. Okay. But yet I always found myself teaching because I wanted to practice what I love to do, which was savate. So I had to teach others. But you know what I'm saying? So,
Yes.
so I've been teaching for a very long time, and whether here and abroad. And so I kind of trials and errors of how we taught, how it was. And then I had some great professors that actually taught you how to teach somebody for them not to go into the mistakes of producing them into a good
Right.
student, into and we've taken that, but it's, how can I put it? You have to have the open mind, and you have to understand criticism, constructional criticism. This is where ego comes down, and we have to humble ourselves.
Yes.
And when somebody tells you, you know what, if you try it this way, you would actually be opening the mind of the students that are there, and they're actually going to try to attain better. Not because it's fast, not because you're kicking with power, but let's talk about telegraphing techniques, because half the students are kicking with a lot of power, kicking with a lot of speed, but they're telegraphing from a mile away what's going to come next. Is that what you really want from your student? So let's start switching this over. And so we have to open up those types of ideas into the instructors for them to move forward. Or,
Yes.
you know,
Well, I'm very excited that we did this show today, and particularly on this topic, because it is so important. Post-COVID and the surge of Omicron, or whatever they call it. We have a branch school in Ontario, in Canada, and they're back on lockdown. They're not allowed to have class again. And so I'm just hoping that people stay safe enough here that doesn't carry over, because you know how our government loves to limit the people, So my best thought for those watching is that, take a little self-responsibility for your health, eat right, exercise, take
Absolutely.
supplements, strengthen your immune system, and you're going to be okay. And the whole thing about like wearing the mask and everything, I don't think that someone who doesn't care enough about their own health, and I'm talking about our government officials, to even eat right and exercise, has the right to tell me what I'm allowed to do and not do. And of course, we take every safety precaution in class. People that want to wear a mask and aren't vaccinated or whatever, they wear the mask. All of our staff is vaccinated. As a matter of fact, just day before yesterday, I got my booster shot for COVID, and I got my shingles vaccine, because I'm at that age. But and like I said, with the hand sanitizer and the UVC lighting, we've taken every possible precaution to have a clean and safe environment for people to train in. Their grocery store doesn't have UVC lighting, right?
Absolutely.
If they're going to go there. McDonald's doesn't have UVC lighting. Disney and Universal certainly doesn't have UVC lighting, killing virus. So, if people are willing to do those things, they should still be willing to continue their commitment to their own health and safety by training. And, before, I know it's getting time to wrap up, but I just wanted to say that the new direction with the show, I'm really excited about. We're still going to have like a monthly guest, special guest. But I think that for those watching that might be first-time viewers, don't understand like your background in this industry, especially with the media, like with Gloves Off. Literally, you have how many episodes under your belt?
On Gloves Off, I think we're at 646 or 645.
Right. So that's a lot of shows. That's a lot of experience. And so for me, it's a privilege to get to work with somebody, professionally, that's got that much experience behind them. And I think that every time that I get to do a show with you, it helps me get better. And I think that the people who are watching, if they continue to watch, they're going to be happy. And we love suggestions too. If anybody wants to message, leave us a YouTube comment to make sure that we get that information of what show topics they're interested in. And if they haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, then now's the time. Click that link, subscribe, click the bell to get the notifications, because we're going to do our very best to make sure that our viewers get the information that they want and need. And so I just wanted to say that. And do you have any comments in closing?
Right before we go, many have asked if we still have some books, and We just, in fact, with COVID, we had done several lots more. We have ordered them. I just got a call from the publisher that we should be getting some within the next 2 weeks. This is the last book that I wrote of the 14, and you should be getting one yourself as well. And this book is very special because for those that are interested in Savat, and this book actually has, in 2012, I did a documentary on all the living professors that were still alive.
I saw that.
And that documentary literally, it's a picture of me back when I was 24. That was digitally made. But anyway, when I'm talking about the documentary, there were at that time there were 56 of us professors alive in the world, and out of those 56, 33 were still teaching. Well, since 2012 to now, we've lost 6 of the 56, so there's 50 left. There's no more professors being made, especially in France. Everything now has gone more towards the sport. And what I mean by the sport is that folks are actually looking more as boxing. So now you have regional trainer, national trainer, international trainer. That's the format that it's going. But what happened with these professors is you used to have an apprenticeship to become one. You had a lot of material that you needed to learn to become one. So each school, each club that had one had a different stylistic approach to whether it was Savat or Boxe Française or Savat Boxe Française. You can tell fighters in the ring in the 90s and the 80s, and by the way they move. He comes from this club, he comes from over there, and people would say, no, you can't, you can, because there were little stylistic differences from the different clubs. Somewhere along the early 2000s, that was lost. And what happened was that once that was lost, everything was put into a cookie pattern. And once you make everything in a cookie pattern, well, everybody's going to look the same, but there's not going to be that free spirit running in there anymore, which was basically the soul of the art. And so if you're interested, that's literally the book of all of what the professors are saying on the documentary. But if you guys are going to go look for the documentary, it's there on the YouTube channel. It's Cobblestones, Laughs, and Square Circles. And you can press the 3 dots in the top, and you can actually have it, the captions be translated into English. So it's a great documentary. But again, I want to thank you for always pushing me forward and for us doing the show. And we have to continue moving, I guess, the ideas, the experiences for others to grow. And we will have some great guests come on board. And we will do a lot of stuff from preparations from all the different martial arts, not just one or the other. We'll touch base on everything, because remember, experience is what matters. And if you're going to go pay, I would say this, if you have a city and you have 10 martial arts schools, I'm just going to put it in, and the furthest one is the one that has the most experience, I will go with the furthest one from you to go learn.
Yes.
Okay. But if I just wanted to have my kids do something from school and really not care what they're learning, I'll take them anywhere. The rec center, do something.
Right.
But
Well, sir, thanks again for everything and for allowing me to be a part of this.
I think you'll be great. And for everybody else watching, you all be safe, stay safe, and remember, martial arts is about health, and there's a lot of different in that spectrum. Health means from self-defense and actually learning how to defend yourself to actually clearing your mind and doing all that stuff. So if you have any kind of question regarding anything, we'll get to it. And if we do not know it, believe me, we'll bring somebody that does.
And just before we go, blessings to all of our viewers. And also, if you would, Professor, please put the information in the video description on how people can get the book.
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Until next time, be safe.
Yes, thank you.